art students. Brian Proctor back again with another drawing lesson, and this is going to be part 3 in the series of how to draw hands holding weapons. I got that right. And this one is going to be on holding the sword. Maybe not this sword, but we're going to do swords. And we're going to pretty much I'm going to pretty much show you how to do the positions you usually see when people are holding swords. So basically it's going to be a two-handed one, so we need to get the two-handed sword out. And yes, I used to collect swords when I was younger and a little more richer. Now I'm old and poor. So let's just get start drawing the swords. All right, let's get this started. So these are the hand positions that we're going to use. Now these are the most common positions that you see in drawing, to me anyway, because these are the most used positions. You have the overhead strike, you have like the thrust from the middle, or just the pose, the single pose. You have the front pose as well. You have a thrust that could be from the side or a type of overhead block, depends on how you turn the sword. And then you have another reverse overhead block or a side block. So as I said, these are usually more of the common position used. So when you're drawing a pin-up or just an action pose, you use these. But you can tweak these because just by moving them slightly, it changes the position some. But we want to go with the basics first, and then you can start doing these and then tweaking them on your own. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the hands to make it a little easier to do. So if you haven't seen the first 2 videos, you should go check them out because it's good information in there as well. But I'm just going to touch on what I talked about in the first 2 videos and maybe give you a little bit more that I kind of left out. So first thing you want to do when you look at the hands, it's a square. You cut your fingers off, it's a square. So you have your square, and we're going from the top to the inside. So you have that. Down the middle, you have your palm. You have your 2 pieces of your palm. So we're just going to center it down the middle. So whenever you draw, when you do these, it makes it a little easier. You have the meaty part that goes to your thumb, and then the little thin part that actually goes up into the baby finger. So the meaty part, which is the thumb, is going to be round, and it's going to go off the hand because the wrist actually comes straight down on this side, and it does not go straight up on the other side. You have this part that comes out. So when you draw the hand and the wrist, it's not like that. The wrist is not that fat. And then you have the thumb, you have the one piece, and you have the little curved piece right here. 2 bends, a bend here, like that. So splitting it down the middle, you want to put 2 fingers on both sides in the middle, and that just makes it easier. You already know how to draw the fingers. So that's easy. So when you're drawing the palm side of the hand, you always want to use this square shape. Now, when you draw on the back side of the hand, you want to use more of a rectangle shape like that. Rectangle? More of a triangle. Here I go with these shapes. Same way when I try to do the torso. Say the torso thing. Anyway, because if you look at it, if you flatten it out, you can say, yes, it's more of a square. But when you make the fist, you have more of that almost triangle shape. If you continue to go down, it would become a triangle like that. So you have more on the thumb side. So you're going to almost kind of flat, and you're going to go out on the thumb side. And that just makes it easier when you're drawing a hand from the back. So remember, square and then the triangle. So if you're drawing a rear position, like let's say he's going to be holding the sword, make that triangle shape, and then the fingers are going to come down like that. It's just an easy way to do it. So it's almost like drawing a building in perspective. And then you split your fingers, 1, 2, 3, and then round them off. And when you do, if you look, your fingers are not straight across, it actually goes at an angle. So you always want to remember to go at that angle. That makes a difference between drawing a nice looking hand and a crappy looking hand. And another thing, the first, or your pointer finger, is going to be shorter because that's the way God made it. Because this is not flat. This is like this and like this. So which means these 2 fingers, of course, naturally are shorter. If you see that here, it goes this, here, and here. And let's just say these 2 go straight across. So because this one is dipped down lower, that first bend, that knuckle. These knuckles kind of line up. These are the knuckles. The first bend lines up. This one is a little shorter. So anytime you make a, you bend your finger, as you see, this one is going to be lower. Let's see if you can see that. This one's going to be lower. So if you bend your fingers like this one's going to be lower, this one's going to be higher, and then they come down like that. These are just little key pointers to remember, because when you start holding stuff or drawing fists, you're going to need that. Also, another thing is, in the center of here, we usually wear that little, what is that, that lifeline? I think this is the lifeline, one of these lines. Anyway, when you bend your finger or bend your hand, this little part comes out here and your baby finger goes in. So if you're doing the fingers coming in, you have this, 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 and this. It goes in and it leaves some meat like that. It leaves that little piece. Because whenever you hold something, it's going to push on that, which makes that part actually come out more whenever you hold something. So, as this, let's say if he's holding something here, you're going to have that finger, and then you're going to have that piece that comes out here. And that also represents that part of the palm as well. I'm sorry, he's going to be holding it. It pushes against that. Let me see if you can see this. It pushes against that hand, that part of the hand, which makes it bulge out a little bit, if shall we say, bulge out a little bit. Okay, so back to this. This is the easiest way to do a hand. The outside of a hand. The inside of a hand is going to stay square. So if I did this, and you want to keep it round as well. It will look like that, and then you put your knuckles there, and it makes it, the thumb goes back around, and it depends on how you are holding something. But this is the easiest way, remembering this one is short, this one is shorter. So you'll have that extra joint. See, the fingers are, of course, 3 joints. You have the first bend or the second bend, 3 joints, 2 bends in that. All right. Let me slow down a little bit because I'm rushing this, and because I know this one's going to be kind of long, because there's going to be some hard parts to do with the hands, and I want to show you these little things so that once you start drawing the hand, it makes it easier, because all these little tips, all these little tips are very important when you draw the hand, because these little things I'm going to show you are going to happen when you're holding something, if that makes sense. All right, another thing is, this is the palm of your hand. Remember, you have the inside of your hand, you have your palm. Now, when you bend your fingers in to make a fist, your fingers, like, notice this one, it's not going to come straight down. It's going to go in. They all kind of go, even this one kind of comes in a little bit. And then you have, once you make that fist, you will have that hand, that curve around the side of the hand. So your fingers are going to come in, and this one is going to come in, and you're going to have that curve, that being the highest point. And the same thing when you hold something, that this is your square. You're going to hold something basically on your palm. Here's the palm. It's going to push against the palm. Let me have something, let me see, my ruler. You're going to have something, and it's going to sit in your hand and push against the palm, especially when you close your hand, when you close your fist, and you will always have that roundness on it. So if you have something like this in your palm, and that's going to be the hard part, is not making the hand too big to hold whatever you want to hold. You have those 3 bends in your fingers like that. So you're going to have to be able to manipulate those 3 bends. And it depends on how fat something is, because usually it'll go right up to the finger, to the line of the finger, whatever you're holding. And then, unless it's like really small, but then that's kind of a weird way to hold it. And then your fingers are going to kind of wrap around that. So you're going to have those 3 bends. So the easy part is to do just this first. remembering to have that curve. Can you see that? Because I can't see that. It is getting dark in this room, and I might have to finish this in the morning. So remember, you have your 3 bends. So let's just do this. Just do 3 ovals, 4 ovals actually. Remembering to have that curve. Now, this part is the shortest bend. So you'll have this, 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 and this. And then you have that second bend and that third bend that actually goes behind. And then, of course, your thumb is going to be here, and it's going to fit in there. But basically, it's ovals or cylinders. Yeah, a lot of times it's just easier to learn to do your cylinders, and then you'll be able to do shapes a little more easier, especially hands, arms, legs, that type of thing. That it's just easier because this is going to have to wrap around, these fingers are going to have to wrap around whatever it's holding. In 5 minutes. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so this is the second day, and I got a little bit of rest, so let me slow down now. Now, what I was saying about these bends is, first thing, as I had said, and I contradicted myself, that these have to go in. This one goes in at an angle, this one goes in at an angle, and these two actually come straight down. So you can draw hands, and they can not be perfect, shall we say, but if you get the shape right, then people will recognize them as hands, or they'll know that they're hands, or they'll excuse you for the mistakes. For instance, if you draw a fist like this, like that, people would say, you know, especially if it's on an arm, oh, that's a fist. But if you know the shapes of the fist, and like this, even though it's not the perfect fist, it looks a little better than that, or it looks a lot better than that, because you have your shapes right. And when you do that, it makes it a lot better. And that's what these little tips are about. And another thing about this, when I was young, I used to draw fists like that, but your separation between your fingers don't come all the way up like this. In certain angles, it looks like it, but when you do a front fist, it won't come up maybe halfway. You see the separations stop right about here. So that's something else. And then, as I said, this does climb. It's hard to hold that. This climbs up a hill, and this curves down like that. So you're going to have a shape like this. This being the highest point. And then you put your knuckles there. And then, as I said, this finger is shorter. So when you make a fist, this knuckle or this bend here is going to be shorter. And maybe because the thumb has to have a place of rest, so this one is shorter and it pushes in more just so your thumb can rest in there. So you're going to have this piece here, and you're going to see that little extra bend right there. So if I can see this on camera, you see this is bend number 1, this is bend number 2, and this is bend number 3. And a lot of times you won't see the third bend doing a fist, but if you're holding something, it's possible that you might see that bend, and that depends on how big it is, how big that something is. So, and this should be a hand tutorial, not just a sword tutorial. Back again, we're going to draw the fist, and that's kind of like drawing that building again. Separate your fingers, 1, 2, 3 lines, which give you 4 fingers. Now, if something was in this hand and it was wide like this, it was really wide, you have your first bend. Now you're going to have to bring your second bend around to be able to go around that object, that pipe or that whatever. And another thing, you have to be careful how big you draw your fingers, because that kills me a lot of times. So this bend being shorter, this one would be right here, this one would be right here, and this one would be right here. As I say, going at that angle again. And then you'll just bend that finger around like that. This one being the shorter, you might see that third bend in on that hand. So you have this right here, this right here, and that bend coming around like that, depending on how big the object is. You have this bend here, this bend here, and this one here, that there, and there. And then, of course, the thumb is, you won't see the thumb, depending on the angle of the hand, you won't see the thumb. Let me give you an example. This is a paper towel roll, so you would want to see it like this. You would see it like that. Yes, it's upside down. But you see that first bend, and then because this is so fat, you see that second bend. And then on the baby finger, you see the first, second, and the third. And then the fingernail is on the third bend. So if you see part of the fingernail, you know it's on that third bend. And as I say, it depends on how big the object is you're holding, whether you see the second or third bends of the finger. And it also depends on the angle. Like if you twist it like this, you just see this second bend on this one. If you turn it, you'll see the second and third bends. But it depends on how you're drawing the hand, at what angle you're drawing the hand. But these little tips keep you safe, keep you from having to work harder at drawing a hand. And then, as I say, this is going to press upon that piece right here. It's going to press down on this part of the hand. So you have not too much. It won't come way out, but you'll just have a little bulge. And that's when you're drawing close-up of hands. If you're drawing a small character, head that big, arms that big, and his hand is here, you really don't need that much detail, but you have to get the shape of the hand right so that people won't, one, criticize. They'll know that it's a hand. Well, they're going to know it's a hand, but from afar, you still want that hand to look right by having like the shapes, the bends right, the joints right. So I think that covers enough of the little tips. Let's get to drawing the hands that we were going to draw in the first place. All right, so the first hand, we're going to do the sword in front. So just like before, we have that house. And then it depends on, this is the back of your hand. Remember I said it's a triangle. Now it could be like that. Depends on how much you turn the hand. Depending on how it shows, determines how much of the back of the hand you would see. So for this one, we're just going to go that much. And then the same thing with this side. It's going to go up, back. Let's raise that up. As I said, you have to one, make both hands the same size that it'll fit and not being too big. So basically, we're having two cubes stacked on top of each other, except this wrist is going to go back like that, and this wrist is going to go back, and we can shorten that like this. So this is the simple part here. Now, remembering the first finger comes up, and then you have that second part. This one is going to come all the way across. This one, these two are kind of like straight across, and this one goes up. So this one comes down at an angle, that one goes up at an angle, and these two come pretty much straight across. This bend, you're going to have, let's just put some small bends in here. And it would be nice if I had my glasses so I can see the detail. 1, 2, 3, going back at an angle. Let's see this bend and just a small amount of the second bend in that hand. So the wrist is going to come down here, and I'll stop the wrist here. And then the arm comes there. Same thing with this one. Now, when you draw hands on top of one another, one of your key points is to have this line and this line lined up. So it's going to be your knuckles. This is going to be your knuckles. You have to have knuckles on one hand line up with the first bend on the second hand. So this is going to be like this. These are your fingers here. And this is going to be your first bend. The second bend, I'm sorry, this is your knuckles. Like that. So this is going to be your second bend that comes around at an angle, Brian, at an angle. So this finger is going to come up a little bit. Like that. And you have to have that, as I say, let me show you. If this is you have something here. If you're holding your sword and you're holding the other sword here, you notice how these lines line up with this. So it's like that. Same thing here. This knuckles line up with that first bend. So it just kind of like helps. It's like flat on flat. So it just gives you a good starting point when you're holding something. Let's take this for example. Let's take this. See how they line up? Now they're not going to be perfectly straight with one another because of course this knuckle is going to be out further than the other, but they're going to be close to one another to where you have a guideline to where you're drawing. So these knuckles are going to line up with the first bend pretty much. It's not going to be straight, like a straight line that goes across. Hopefully you can see this. You have my knuckles here, and then this first bend, they kind of line up. Now, the wider the object, the more they'll move out. But if you're holding something like a sword, like this for instance, which is wider, this would be more of a pipe or a club or something. They kind of the first bend lines up with the first bend somewhat because this is wider. But if it's something smaller, the first bend of your fingers are going to line up with the knuckles. So it's going to look pretty much like this. And you might have the third bend in there as well, depending on the size of the object that you have. But usually this first finger, always going to see that second bend in there. And again, it depends on the size of the object. And on this angle, you probably won't, if you're holding it in front of you, you won't see the back of the palm. If your camera angle is here, you won't see the back of that palm. And I need to reset this camera because it's on autofocus is just shut off. So let's just see if the sword is here and here. Remember, the sword is always going to be pushing against the fingers. So if it's wider, if it's bigger than that, you're going to have to show that second. If it comes past that first bend, you're going to have to show that second bend to hold whatever you're having. Now, like I said again, and I'll get autofocus back off of this thing again. You won't see the back of the hand like that. And remember, as I say, it's a triangle, more of a triangle shape. Depending on the position. But for this position, holding it straight to the front, you won't see that. Now let me get this autofocus back off. Turn this off of my camera. So if I did a crude ink job on this, it would look like this. Remembering that you have your knuckles here. And then this back comes back to this triangle. A little bend in the wrist and then your arm. And then, as I said, depending on how big this handle was that you're holding, you'll see some of the second bend. First one, you have your knuckles without the back of the hand. You may see just a little piece of the back of the hand, but the wrist has got to be bent. The wrist will bend to where you won't see that part right there. Then you go up, finger, bend, it goes around it. Most times that finger will separate if you're holding something. Same way with the trigger of the gun. That bend. And you have to kind of keep this round. I know it's a kind of a flat drawing, but if it's better to try to keep it round, and maybe just by adding some roundness or round lines to it. Round lines, curved lines to it. Makes it a little better. And then you can have your sword or whatever it is that he's holding, and that's the position from in front of you. So let's do one from the side. So the side, and this is going to be like the side position. Draw your thing first. And now I meant to say it's always best to draw your weapon and then put your hands around it. So I'm going to do this. We're going to have this triangle, and then we're going to have the hands around it. And then the other one we're going to have at the top coming down. And then the hands around that. And it's good to draw squares, rectangles, and I get on people about that, drawing your squares, circles, and triangles. The better you do those, the better you will have your shapes. And one thing about the hand, when you put something in the hand or when you hold something, it's not going to go straight across like this. It's not going to go straight and stay straight. When you close your hand, watch the pen. When you close your hand, that pen is going to come down like that at an angle, like that. So anything you hold is actually going to come down at that angle because these fingers are pushing it down at this angle. So when you do a square hand inside of your hand, your object is always going to be more of that rectangle, and then you're going to have these fingers because this is round. You're going to have these fingers. You're going to have this one is going to be the shortest. This one's going to be second. This one's going to come down longer, and this one is going to not come down as much, I don't believe. So you have that angle, and then you have your thumb, which goes across this. This is why this finger is so short, because that thumb is going to cut across it like that. So doing this triangle, I'm going to have that finger It's going to be short. Just draw your lines first. Draw your lines first. So this one's going to be short. This one's going to be longer. This is going to come down, and it's going to come down too. So you're going to definitely see that second bend, that other bend here, here, and of course you're definitely going to see this one. And because after that part it curves around, so you won't see the third one. And your arm is going to come like that. You see the third on that finger because that pipe is coming through there, or that line is coming through there. So you're going to have to reach around with that third bend on that finger. Now, if I put it more down in the palm, you won't see it as much. So, get my glass case out the way. With this one, it's going to be the same thing. You have your finger, do your fingers first. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And it hooks around, and it's kind of easy when you're just drawing a box that goes around. Knowing that your first bend is shorter, do your knuckles. I might make it a little easier. First bend is going around. Second one is going to be longer, curving up like so. This, that, and maybe you'll see some coming in. It depends. But you'll definitely see this one. Let's bring this out like I said. And then back like that. So you would have some more palm. You'd have more palm showing here. So that I'd have to bring this pipe down a little bit more, or pole, or whatever it is. So this arm actually would go up like this. And then the other hand, the arm would come down. This one would go back. So if I drew through, the other arm would come back down like this. Where's my blue pen? So this arm would come up, and this part of the arm would go back down into the shoulder. So the shoulder would be here, like that. The head would be here. So inking this real quick. These will be your knuckles. Almost like the person was playing a flute because it's just high up on the finger. Like so. Third one. I'm trying to keep this thing under an hour, but I don't think it's going to work. Third one is this side. Let's do the opposite side. So the opposite side is going to be, show your thing first. This is going to be like that. It's going to come down and around. This one is going to be, and whenever you grab something, I'm trying to explain that. Let me keep drawing. It'll come to me. Drawing part is the easy part, but explaining how to do it easily is the hard part. So we have, this is your first bend, second bend. These are your knuckles up top. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Same thing here. These are your knuckles here. 1, 2, 3, 4. First bend, second, third. So because this line is down here, or the line for the handle is down here, you won't see a second bend except maybe on the first finger, and that's going to come down because it's bent here and it's going to come down. You won't see the second bend here, here, or here. You might see that finger come around, but you won't. And then pushing against that palm, like I said, it comes out. like that one. Now this one, this is going to be your pointer finger right here. It's coming out like a cylinder and then down. This one's going to be longer. So about right here, and right here. You might see the third one on this one. As I said, it depends on the size. Let's bring this up a little bit more. Another thing that's going to be a problem. Now, with this one facing you, you're going to see the palm of your hand. So it's going to come down like this in the center of this. If this hand was coming down, if this was just square like this, like that, here's your palm. Here's your fingers coming around like that. So center that, as I said, so you're going to see your palm. So it's going to come down and you're going to see your palm here and then here. Because your thumb is going to come right about here, and I didn't leave room for that thumb. So it's going to come out and then up. Because that handle is pushing against that palm. So you're going to have your thumb here, and this finger is going to tuck in more. That's why it sticks out more and it tucks in more, leaving room for your thumb. And your thumb is going to be right in here. The thumb is more facing you. Like that. Can you see that? I'll ink it. When I ink it, you'll see it. Ink pen, which is in your hand. Comes down and stops here. This one's going to go down here, here, and then here, and then you might see that third bend right there because it has to grab that pipe. This pipe has to come down a little bit longer because your fingers actually stop, and then you see some of the roof of that palm. So 2, 3, and this one goes down. So this, see that one, that bend right here, no second bend. Maybe a little bit here because that is the smallest finger. It comes down. Pushing against that palm like that. That would be more if your sword was here. Side. 1, 2, 3, 2 more to go. These are the hardest ones. So, the front one, and if you look at the second video, I think when I did the knife, it kind of explains it. This front one, it's easy for me. I'll use like 2 circles. And it depends on the angle of your hand. So basically, it's going to be the sword aiming like you're going to thrust. So it's going to be aiming. So you're going to have like 2 squares, but the way you hold it, your hands form into more of a circle. So it's going to be a circle in front of a circle, and then you'll be able to do the fingers. Now it's kind of a strange process, but hopefully you'll get it. So let's just draw. This is the sword. The first thing I do is I do that finger. The finger's going to hold it right here. The finger's going to bend at the point or the edge of the sword, kind of like doing a V. This is your first bend, second bend, and that third one is going to go around it. So the edge of your sword that's facing someone like this, the edge, if it's facing, and I have my hand around it, that point is kind of going to be pointing directly toward where I'm going. In this case is kind of wide, but if it was a smaller case, you'll see that this point would be pointing towards you, towards it. Now, going at this circle, might have to make the circle a little bigger. You have this and going back. So you're going to do kind of like, it's kind of hard to explain like this if you draw water like that. But if you draw water in a circle, you do this, you do that, you do that, you do that. Now, each finger is going to come off of that point that you do. It's going to come around just like that. Hopefully you saw that. So we're going to do this, 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 and this. So we're going to have that second finger come off that point. It's going to go around and then bend back in it. Bend back up around the sword. Second, same with the third one. You're going to go back around and in. And this fourth one, going to go back around and in as well. So that all three go that way. Then you have your thumb, which is going to actually hold this part, this tip of the thumb right here. It's going to hold this right there. You're going to have that second bend here and that third bend coming around like that. And of course, you're going to have that web. Oh, this web is going to be here, but you're not going to see that because the sword is there. So if I did this, and sometimes you might make it bigger depending on the angle of the hand. You'll see some of the side of the hand like that. So you have your object, which I put in blue. This is my object. This is my sword. And so now usually the guard of the sword is not going to be that high. It's going to cover all of this. So that helps you to do, but you still need to know, because actually the guard will be right there sitting on the palm on this part of your hand. But I want you guys to know how to do it first. So as I said, you have this one point here, this one, the first bend right in front, pointing right at you. Second one turns there, and the third one. So that finger is actually holding the sword. So you have your knuckle here. You're going to do the water thing. Bring the next finger out. It's going to go past this bend and then curve around like that. Do your water again. It's going to go out. It's kind of following this, but it's going in more. It's going in almost like they're coming to a point. And then your third one going out, and then because that's a shorter finger like that. So you're going to have that web part of your hand. This part comes around and into the thumb. The thumb is going to be holding, and it could be sitting on top of this finger. That, you have two bends in your thumb. You have the first one, second one, and the third one, which is back, way back here. And that curves around into that, and then you have your part of your hand here. Now, the same thing with the other hand. You're going to have that finger, that one finger that's going to come and bend around, and you're not going to see it, and that's a good thing because it covers it up. And it also depends on how much you hold that sword, how much of an angle you hold that sword, whether you see any of that back of that hand. But you're going to have the first one. Again, here's your knuckle. Again, that wave comes around, we'll pass it, and in, again, in, and in, and in, and in, again, and there, like that. And you won't see, well, you will see the thumb come on that side. So, knuckle, finger, this is the bend right there. You do that, that little water wave comes down past this bend and then bends up and around. Same thing again with this one. This is one of the hard ones. And then that. It's not too hard to draw, but it's hard to explain. Like so. And as I said, you would have the hilt of the guard of your sword would be right here. And then you'd have your blade right here. So you would not see all of that. And then you'd have the rest of the sword here. But as long as you know the process of it, it's just, here's your object, the first finger, the first bend, second bend, third bend. You have your knuckle here and the water. 1, 2, 3. And they all come and they join around like that. Now you might keep the fingers a little closer, as I said. It depends on the angle of it. And then your thumb right here. First bend, second bend. There's your bends in that finger right there. Yeah. Now, once that 1, 2, 3, 4. Last one, hardest one. All right, let's try this last one, which is to me the hardest one, and it's the overhead strike that you see a lot in comics. So first, let's do sword. And because this is overhead, you're going to kind of see the bottom. You're not going to you're going to see the bottom of the hand more, or the palm of the hand more than the rest. First, let's put my glasses on. Let's do one hand and then do the other hand. It's the good thing about this is when you're doing that and you're holding it up, you're not going to see the other hand. But just in case you want to do like a one-hand strike, we'll work on both of them. So, one hand at a time. All right, so basically, I'm trying to say, if you're going to do a square or box, you're going to see the bottom of the box like that. And then you're going to see the wrist. Remember that doing the palm of the hand, and if the thumb is over here, your wrist is going to be like that. So you want to leave that little extra space here. So what you're doing here is you're going to do your palm. Let's do the box. Let's do that box. The box is going to cut into the sword, and let's just say this is would it be the top of the sword? No, the sword would be like that. And then you'd have the bottom part and then your blade, like so. So up, you're gonna have your palm, which goes back like this, around it. Let's say center that. Here's your box. I don't want to draw the whole box. So center that. This is the center of your palm. This is where your thumb is going to go on this side. The thumb is going to cross over that sword. But what's most important is the fingers. Can you see that? Or is this really blurred? Let me focus this real quick. Let me stop this and focus it. So using this backhand, you know, the finger's going to come up through it and then down and around. So let's get this a little more where we can see. There won't be so many lines. So this one is going to come across and then down. And it's going to cover the other ones to a degree. Since this is a shorter one, the other one is going to come further out and down. Same thing with this one. It's going to come further out and down. And this third, or the fourth one, is going to be here, but it's going to be covered by the thumb. Speak English. So we're going to put the thumb here, going like that. And then here's your second part, and then there is your palm. So in essence, I guess you can do, as long as you have that finger, those fingers coming out like that, you can just do 1, 2, 3. And as I said, it's going to be covered up. So each one is really going to be covered up by the other one. You're not going to see the whole thing, but your thumb is going to cover that last finger. So it would just look something like this, and this is kind of like the easy way to do it. As I said, that thumb is going to cover up that last finger. And then you put that sword. Remember, it's going to be pressing against that palm, and it's going to be pressing against that one too. Now, to have the other hand would be right here. So that other hand would be, let's just do the sword again. it would be, remembering it's pushing against the palm, and then there's the thumb. So again, trying to make it easy. Trying to make it easy. It's not that easy, not this particular one. Same thing here. Over, across, and down. These are going to be more cross and down. It's going to be behind that one. Let's just draw it first. 1, 2. Sword is behind it. 1, 2. 1, 2. And again, you won't see that third one like that because that thumb is going to come up, or that fourth finger, the thumb is going to come up and out like that. Might bring these fingers up just a little higher though. That fourth one won't show. So it would be more like, here's your sword. This one would be the front. And remember, that's overhead, so you'd have to have that wrist round like that. And this one, it would be, how did I have the thumb? Okay, it would be like this, like that. Again, you would have to have that wrist round. The palm, the finger, and you wouldn't really see much of that finger. And there's your sword. So it would be good if you had a double hand kind of strike thing, and the thumb is in front of that. So if you put them both together, it would look like, so let's get just a new piece of paper. So drawing your sword first. Again, it's going to sit on the palm. Then you're going to have the other part of the palm. Like that, the wrist. This is going to go up. And of course, your finger comes down. So it's going to go like that. Or down, more holding it. Like that. Like that. And your thumb. You won't see that one because your thumb is coming up again. And like that. So you would see 1, 2 bends. 1, 2 bends. And you wouldn't see much of that finger right there because, as I said, that thumb would be covering it up because it's a low angle. So and that other finger here, thumb covers that up. Keeping it round. So this knuckles your bed. So if you put the other hand behind it, you wouldn't see too much of that. So let's say the wrist, this is the hand coming up. Let's move that back a little bit more. All right, so I'm just gonna pull it back too much, not too much because the hands have to be close to it. So you have the sword, you're gonna have the palm here. That other hand is gonna be coming over, which we won't see. The palm. This is the front palm, this one right here, and this is the front palm there. So you're going to have that thumb comes up, and then there again, and you might see some finger. So in doing so, it would be like this. More that angle. that sword would come through there. So it would look like that. And that's the saving grace of doing that, because you won't see the rest of the hand. As long as you get that one right, you can cover this up as much as you want. And again, the guard would be really close to that sword there. And this is your blade. And as long as you put the arms out, stretch your arms out to the side, then you have it. That was, to me, that's one of the hardest ones, especially to explain. It's kind of easy for me to just throw it out there and draw it, but it's hard to explain. And a lot of people will say, oh, it's hard to do, and it is, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And that's the difference between somebody that you say, oh, has got great talent, and somebody that doesn't have great talent. I believe everybody has the same amount. It's just the amount of time that you put into it. And some people can ride a skateboard and just do all kind of backwards tricks doing a skateboard. And some people can just ride it and just fall off every few seconds. It's not that the person has more skateboard riding skills. He probably just put more time into it. And the same thing with doing this. It's just art. You just, more people, they draw professionals. These guys that work in animation and so forth and so on. These guys have just probably been putting so many hours into mastering their skills that it's just not funny. So the more time you put into it, the better you will become. So just be patient with yourself. Just keep going and don't give up. That's all it is. You know how to do this. And how long did it take you to do that? Remember back in the day when they had the little things? I think it was like that. It's been so long. And then you had to draw all the letters. And then after a while, you were able to do it. And it's the same thing. It's just doing it over and over and over and over again. And then once you get it, then it's part of your brain. You know how to do the alphabets with your eyes closed in the dark. So once you draw a hand over and over and over, or a face over and over and over, then it becomes second nature. So don't say, oh, he's a better artist than me. Just say, well, he put in more time than me. I plan on putting as much time in it as he did, or even more. So with that said, hopefully you are able to get it. If not, just go back, rewind, pause, the whole 9 yards, and I believe that you will be able to do it after a time. So with that said, I'm going to let you guys go. And this is the final piece right here. These are the final pieces. So I will catch you guys in the next video, which will be the last one in hands. The staff, doing the staff. Now, a lot of the staff will be the same as a sword almost, except your hands are usually not together when doing the staff. So I think my next video will probably be an action pose position, because I'm really tired of looking at hands right now. But that's going to be the last one, staff. So I will see you guys later. Let's go with a longer sword. So yeah, we're going to typically work with these positions that you usually see in comics. No. Try again. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No, not YouTubers, art students. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Art students, Brian Proctor, slow it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Art students, Brian Proctor back again with another drawing lesson. And this lesson is going to be holding weapons with your hands, and yeah, that too. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Art students, Brian Proctor back again with another drawing lesson, and this is going to be the third in the series of the In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Art students, Brian Proctor back again with another drawing lesson. And this one's going to be part 3 in the holding weapons with your hand. How to hold weapons with your hand. Thunder, thunder, Thundercats. Uh-oh, wrong sword. I'm sorry.